YouTube has continued to attack alternative media by demonetizing most of our videos. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit our Amazon store or our Patreon page. Links below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and Magic the Gathering had a bit of a kerfuffle over the course of this past weekend. During the Thanksgiving weekend 2017, you had a prominent cosplayer by the name of Christine Sprankle decide that she was going to vacate the community, vacate cosplaying as Magic the Gathering characters, and move on because of targeted harassment, mostly, according to her, at the hand of a man by the name of UnsleevedMedia or MtGHeadquarters on YouTube. He's gone by multiple names, and according to people on the Magic the Gathering subreddit, he's not very well liked, is from what I can gather. You have many people that are trying to say that this is just a whole bunch of SJWs trying to run out anti-SJWs, and then if you go to the Reddit, you can find out that the mods were in fact they locked the post, they were deleting lots of comments, getting rid of the riffraff, if you will, and so it kind of leaves the average person to kind of go, what the hell is going on with that community? Because it always seems to be a problem. There always seems to be those claims about sexism and misogyny and harassment in the Magic the Gathering community. Now, in the course of looking into the story, I hit my sister up, who actually happens to have played a lot of Magic the Gathering with her ex-boyfriend. She was learning with her ex-boyfriend, going to weekly events in Portland, and I hit her up and I asked her, like, hey, how sexist is it? How horrible is Magic the Gathering? And she's like, not at all. One guy asked me out for my boyfriend. That was it. And I'm like, oh, so no one's like, no one's like harassing, no one's like berating you for not being good. She's like, at tournaments, maybe, but they're trying to help you, so they might just do it in a different way. No, like, you know what? I think that's probably more akin to what it is people out there are critical, and they may not be the nicest about it. And that's oftentimes kind of how the internet operates. Yes, don't get me wrong. There are douches on the internet. You can't be a YouTuber or any kind of content creator without dealing with them. But ultimately, it boils down to just kind of sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You just have to roll with that mantra. So this is where we find ourselves with the whole Christine Sprankle situation. Now, it kind of started originally with this tweet from Daniel whatever his name is, saying here, if there's still a single one of you who doubted the toxicity and misogyny of our community, today our most prominent cosplayer was driven out of Magic at the end of a long campaign of harassment by the worst among us. Silence his complicity. Do something about it. Now, this type of listen and believe behavior is one that you find in almost every community out there, now that we've seen social justice warriors kind of migrate themselves into these different sub communities, if you will. We saw this in gaming a number of years ago. It's been in Magic for a couple of years as well. There's been controversies at least once a year for as far back as I can remember. Always something along those lines, like, you can't do this, it's so mean. But it just kind of tends to be the case. And the reason why, and this is honest to God the best way to describe it, the reason why this happens, my friends, is because you have people that are very thin-skinned, that are new to something, going into a long-standing, you could call it community, if that's what you want to refer to it as. Maybe, MTG's been around for well over 20 years. So yeah, you could call that a long-standing community. There are people there that are going to have their own in-jokes. They're going to have their own, their own little kind of like subgroups. They're going to have their own little cliques. They're going to have their own thing. And then you get these SJWs come on in, or these, whatever you want to call them, coming on in, and they end up wanting things to be done their way. And then they cry harassment when it doesn't happen. Now, I'm not saying that's precisely what happened here. I don't fully know, to be honest with you. I don't really follow this drama, and I can't sit there and give you one clear picture or another. I can only show you what I found, because a lot of the stuff tends to be deleted, or it's not really kind of put out there in ways we can easily find it. So all we can really do at this point is kind of just go back to the beginning, which is, well, this particular Reddit thread, saying here, Christine Sprankle quitting Magic cosplay due to barrage of toxic harassment. Now, that particular title in and of itself is one that's guaranteed to draw a reaction, right? Christine Sprankle being a big Magic the Gathering cosplayer, here where she's got her patrons, 308 patrons a month, saying that cosplay is her passion in life. It's how she expresses herself. It's a way for her to share things that she loves with others. She began cosplaying in 2004, but really hit the scene with Magic the Gathering World Championships in 2011 when she cosplayed as Elspeth Tyrell. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Since then, I've been doing as much Magic and other cosplay as I can. Okay, so she found a niche that worked for her. She went to this thing that didn't really have a lot of cosplaying, kind of hit the ground running, became a bit of a trend within that community. From what I gathered from other videos that I've seen on the issue, she was paid to go and promote these events, pay to go to these fan meetups, so on and so forth. So she found a niche for her to make herself some extra money, some extra coin, and do what she loves. Hey, cool, good for her. Honest to God, I do the same thing. I would love to be paid to go to events. It's probably never going to happen, but I'd still freaking love it. But that being said, you can see where she kind of got her start. Now this whole thing here, you can see it's a locked comment. It's a locked post. 1,700 comments. So many of these were deleted. So many people were coming in and trolling, to the point of where here you have the mods saying that they cleaned out a bunch of stuff, banned a bunch of people, and they said, you know, here are ground rules. You know, if you suggest some being brutally harassed is something people should expect and they should grow a thicker skin or get used to the real world, or in any way suggest it's somehow the victim's fault for not living up to your expectations of resilience, you may get a permanent ban. I love that they say brutally harassed. I do get a kick out of that, to be honest with you, because essentially, I believe this is the first set of, you know, before we jump into this one here, this particular person, okay, UnsleevedMedia MtGHeadquarters, okay, even Christine herself has come out and said some stuff, but this essentially is what it's all about. So according to this particular tweet here, it says here, UnsleevedMedia /MtGHeadquarters was pretty relentless in his targeting of her. He had a total of 3 now frantically deleted, it seems, videos calling her a pornographer with quotes like, "She's a dog, a 3 out of 10. I'd still do her." And he mockingly called her a man too. Now, this is trollish behavior, I think, to the best of the description of the term. And that's essentially what it really kind of boils down to here. It's just, it's trollish behavior. Yeah, he says, it all makes sense. This guy does a pretty good job cosplaying this card. The guy is allowed to have an opinion on somebody else who does this as a job. He can have his opinion. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it, so on and so forth. Now, I don't know much about this guy outside of his another YouTube channel of his called The Quartering. I really don't. So this is the one clip kind of making the rounds to give you an idea of how bad it is. And just give it a listen to see whether or not you think this guy's being a troll, being a harasser, or just in general being kind of a douche.
And look at the ultimate cucklord in general, first to respond. Keep doing what you do. It's having a wonderful effect on our community. Let me tell you something. Real Magic players give 0 fucks about cosplayers. 0. I'll be at GP Vegas. I don't care how many fucking 6 out of 10s get dressed up like Magic players to feel like 8 out of 10s for the day. Nobody cares. Only you and the fucking losers who give you their money on Patreon give a rat's ass about what Magic player you dress up as for a GP. I'm sorry, cosplay is just lingerie.
Yeah, cosplay is just lingerie. It's not necessarily a wrong statement, to be fair. But at the same time, that's really not that horrific of a statement to make. That's not brutal harassment. That's not brutal sexism. He's just saying he doesn't like cosplay. He views it as just an assault on the senses. That's really about it. He doesn't care. Really shouldn't matter. And ultimately, it comes across as a bit of a douchey troll. That's how I view it. And again, I saw his video in response to all this, and he essentially was pointing out that he made one video over 6 months ago that, well, basically, that was it. And people are bringing that up as being the targeted harassment against him. Well, somebody else on that particular Reddit thread did put this together about UnsleevedMedia or MtGHeadquarters or Jeremy, whatever his name is. And this is an interesting post because it does give you an idea a little bit about, I think, how the community perceives him. Just because I always feel it's fair to look to see how people look at this kind of guy. And you can tell this was well liked because it has 1,700 upvotes and someone gave them Reddit gold. So it says here, way back, he was a content creator with some respect, made unboxing videos, very clickbaity, crappy, but successful enough that he got a few preview cards. Now, I think preview cards operate in the same way as getting a first look at a video game, especially if you're in a kind of a tight niche community. If you get access to that kind of preview material, it's good for your channel because then it gives you, well, that previewability, and then it makes you kind of a subject matter expert, and people come to you. It's clicks, it's views. And let's be fair, it's money, it's popularity, and so that's kind of what people go for with this particular type of video content. They want to get in with Wizards of the Coast. They want to get this stuff. Now, Wizards be perfectly bluntly fair, they have the ability to either work with you or not work with you. They have that right. So if they decide for whatever reason, even based upon the comment right there, that they want to pull out, then that's up to them, right? That's entirely up to them. They don't have to work with you. And they could view what he said as being that kind of harassment. I don't personally see it as that. I don't think a lot of other people see it as that, but clearly there's enough people out there that have complained for whatever reason, that whether they do see it as that or they just don't like this guy and they want to get him kicked out of Magic, because they really want Wizards to step up and stop him, which is the weirdest thing on the planet. But it does go on to say here, Gabby Spartz made an intelligent, well thought out testimonial about her experience and difficulties of being a woman in the online creator community. There was a lot of positivity, but he felt the need to say that she should just toughen up. Well, to that, I actually kind of have to agree with him, mostly because we've learned through study after study after study that men predominantly get more hatred. We do. We get more online targeted harassment than women do. We just are not vocal about it because most of the time we tough enough about it. There are lots of people out there who say horrific, terrible things to me all the time. All the time. Somebody found out that I'm going to be, well, I have talked openly about how I'm going to be a father here pretty soon. So I get a barrage of comments like, oh, hope you enjoyed watching your girlfriend get screwed by another guy, you stupid fat cuck. I mean, all of those kind of things. Edgy kind of comments that you would hear Jeremy make in that previous video. Because he did. He said, oh, I don't care what kind of, oh, here's this cuck in the audience here. Right? The kind of commentary that you know is edgy to the point of being just, like it goes over the top and you're like, okay, you've lost me now with your edginess. Now you're just trying too hard, which is kind of how he comes across to me. Even in his video explaining the situation, he came across as a bit try hard. So you can see he's trying to play a particular role here. But again, this is more about the, the community's viewpoint of him than anything else. So it says other creators told him he was out of line. So instead of apologizing like an adult, he dug in his heels and went with the I'm not an asshole. The problem is political correctness, free speech. I'm a brave truth warrior, and started making random offensive jokes targeting vulnerable members of the community. And again, that tends to be an SJW mindset there. When you call someone out and they say free speech, and then they go, well, they should have apologized. No, they don't have to apologize. Free speech doesn't mean polite decorum. If that was the case, our president wouldn't be our president. But the point I'm trying to get through here is that like they have the right to say what they want and you have the right to disagree with it. If you want to think that they're an asshole for not doing it, fine, that's up to you. But don't sit there and be like, don't try to take the moral high ground here because you're trying to, you can't. I don't think you can. If he was making offensive jokes, he was doing it clearly to get a reaction out of you, and it worked. So in that particular case, he was muckraking you and it worked out. People started to talk to WOTC about him and stopped giving him preview cards. People stopped watching his channel as much, and he entered into a shitlord spiral and turned his entire content into a screed about how he's a victim of censorship and SJW culture is destroying the game, yada, yada, yada. Any mainstream fans remaining left, but he developed a small dedicated pod of shitlords who encourage his behavior because they will watch literally any video or any content that blames all life's problems on PC culture. Yes, we see you can also argue the opposite of that, where there are people out there who will watch any video or any content that blame all of life's problems on the patriarchy or anybody else but them or personal responsibility. So it's not just one side. It's literally like, it's a horseshoe theory in motion here. But that does make sense though. And from that particular aspect, saying that, and I've seen this happen in anti-SJW channels as well, where they kind of get to this point of where everyone else is, is the problem here. Never any internal retrospective, viewing it all. So I do get that particular point. The toxic feedback loop made him act out worse and worse. He started to believe his own bullshit. He tried renaming himself UnsleevedMedia to reinvent himself. Didn't work. And now he's sad and bitter that the community left him behind. So he takes out his weird frustrations on community members who blames himself, or who he blames for his self-caused downfall. That could be true, could not be true. I don't know. If the community, if he had a particular, set of fans and they had a falling out, which could happen. Okay, trust me, I'm fully aware. It can happen. And then, he started kind of doubling down or backing up those who left, then you can kind of see where things would go. He orchestrated serious harassment against Wedge at the Manosaurus and encouraged fans to do the same. He's gone so far as to try to organize sabotage of panels because Wedge/Jimmy are on them. When someone calls him on it, he always edits old tweets or posts and claims it was just a joke, bro. Kind of hard. You can't really edit old tweets. I just want to kind of point that out there. You can't edit tweets at all. It's a common feature many of us who use Twitter would like them to do, but they haven't done that yet. He also asks filthy, rude, and insulty at women, especially Christine, for the crime of being more popular than him, when obviously cosplay is so much less effort than his shitty unboxing videos. Satire mark there. His comments are disgusting and toxic in every aspect, and he encourages his little squad of edgelord dumbasses to echo it even worse. And this, of course, on top of all the other sexual and personal harassment that Sprankle endured as a woman online. See, again, that's that common reference back to that point. It's never that she received criticism for being a person or what they're doing. It's always, it goes to the base level of gender. And that's the constant deflection, right? It's kind of like, oh, well, as a woman named this, I'm in. And it's like, well, hold on. Again, you can find study after study after study after study that will show you that ultimately you can't rely on that particular as a defense. It's not a shield. It doesn't work that way. Everyone gets crap. The idea behind it is you cannot be a public person and expect the people to all agree with you all the time. You're putting your opinions out there. Whether people agree with you or disagree with you is not up to you. You don't have that ability. You can argue your case the best of your ability, but people out there are still going to have their own cognitive bias, and they're also going to look for their own confirmation bias, and then they're also going to, you know, believe you or not believe you, or like you or not like you. I mean, hell, Anita Sarkeesian went to the United Nations to complain about people disagreeing with her on the internet. That's how it's gotten. And the fact that the UN didn't just laugh her out the front door, you know, I don't understand that personally. But the point I'm trying to get to here is that, it doesn't, words are words. Best way to describe it right there. Okay, and yet the worst thing about him is he desperately wants to come back. He wants to be a content creator, and he keeps making clickbait videos where he tries to rescue the community or call out issues, thinking he's going to get his prestige back and put this beyond him. Probably not. You kind of get to a point, especially after all this, where you're going to basically see the community kind of break into two in that regard. And, you know, it's not so much that you're going to have like a 50-50 split. It's going to be more of like a really small subsection of really vocal people are going to follow Unsleeved Media as a result of this. And the reason why is because of the fact that modern feminism, regressive leftists, that mindset has become extremely toxic, problematic. Oh yeah, I'm using your own words back on you. And it's done so in a way that has really kind of emboldened and bolstered the opinions of people who don't agree with that. And because when this kind of online rhetoric ekes its way into the real world or ekes its way into these forums, like I've said before, you got people who come into these particular subsections that they find some ways to make a change, and they claim victimization when it doesn't happen the way that they want. So they keep claiming that and claiming that and claiming that until they get the change that they want, even though ultimately they're not the bulk of the people who are buying the product. It really does go to show you that, like, you know, people don't want to ever be seen as the bad guys, so they're willing to give in to these demands. Whereas you've got the people that are fighting back for what you could argue is the sanctity of the game, or at least the competitive edge of the game, and not trying to pander to anybody, keep it as, you know, as equal, as merit-based as possible, are oftentimes labeled as the victim, or as the attackers, as the harassers. So much so that Wizards of the Coast themselves tweeted out, "We're saddened by what happened in the Magic community this weekend. Cyberbullying and harassment are unacceptable, and we support those who come forward with their experiences. No one should be made to feel unsafe or unwelcome. We're working to be part of the solution." But here's my question though. If the Reddit community, right, the Reddit community that is currently kind of broken as a result of this, and they're mass banning people for defending Unsleeved Media. They are, you know, I've watched it happen and watched it play out on Twitter. If they're mass banning all these people who just have a difference of opinion, are they at that point in time feeling unsafe or unwelcome in a community of which they are an active part? It even goes as far as on the Reddit community itself to have the mods come out and say that if you are a regular user of Magic the Gathering subreddit and you were incorrectly banned in the crossfire, what can you do? Wait a couple days. When things have died down a bit, feel free to send us a message by replying to your ban message and we'll review your history. So even if you are just kind of like not agreeing with the narrative, you can still be banned, and people were banned. And so the Reddit mods, those who are meant, you know, that do this in their free time, that are meant to protect the sanctity and the holiness of the Reddit Magic the Gathering community, are still, applying some very strict tactics to make people feel unsafe and unwelcome, which according to Wizards of the Coast here is not something they want, and they want to be part of the solution. So the real question here is, what's going to change? Well, this is where things get interesting, and they get kind of, well, interesting. Someone in the subreddit earlier today posted a thread about proposing a Wizards of the Coast group regarding harassment, essentially trying to suggest Magic the Gathering Trust and Safety Council. Now, if you followed any of the drama involving Twitter, you know how bad that is. You know how bad it's going to be, especially when the people who are suggested into this are ones who have actively worked against Unsleeved Media. So you're not going to have like a 50-50 split of people who would either agree or disagree on certain things. And that's never a good sign. If you're going to do something like this, Wizards of the Coast, you want to absolutely have there would be a 50-50 split. You won't get that though, because people wouldn't like that. If they were to suggest this kind of thing, and having one person there or one or two people there who didn't agree with the overall narrative, that Christine Sprankle was run out rather than just quit, you know that that's going to be a huge problem. And the reason why something like this kind of frightens me just in and of itself is because a couple years ago when Gamergate was a thing, there were suggestions made by myself, I will fully admit, of the idea of a council, which could be brought back up. People might reference that in the comments on this video. My suggestion for a council involving Gamergate was more for building a community, creating events and open platforms for people to speak. But other people wanted there to be this kind of gatekeeper situation. I didn't agree with that particular mindset. Mine was just, I want there to be a group of people that organize events, bring us together, talk, so on and so forth. But other people out there on the other side of the coin were very much talking about the same idea, but creating, again, kind of these gatekeeper trust and safety council situations or groups really, in order to push a certain narrative to keep something from like Gamergate ever happening again. And ultimately, it's a horrible idea. It's one that 3 years ago I thought was interesting. I look back on it now, and as much as I like the idea of an open forum to discuss these issues and to have somebody facilitate that, I don't think it's ever going to be a possibility. Now, Wizards of the Coast themselves are not going to come out right away and acknowledge this situation. They're not going to come out and directly do anything that would impact their bottom line, because their job, their goal is to make money, right? Their goal is to just make cash. That's what they're all about. They just want to. Now, they're a business. They know that they're selling off cardboard crack. They know, and just so you guys know, the big thing that kicked off this whole Christine Sprankle situation, which I totally don't know why I didn't mention earlier, was people got mad at her over a flip it or rip it game she played, which basically the concept behind that is somebody buys a booster pack of cards, they lay them out face down, and then you go through and you either flip it or you rip it. So you pick a card to save, you tear a card, and apparently she tore a rare card or an expensive card, and people gave her crap for it online. So yeah, she played a game that's essentially a really loose form of, I don't know if you want to call it gambling, but definitely some game that people actually in that same thread from before were coming out and saying like, oh, this is a good thing. This is a fun game. It's exhilarating. So they find joy in it. They find joy paying the money for those booster packs, and they find joy tearing apart cards. That's their own thing. Their money is spent. Wizards doesn't care about that because the money's already in their damn pocket. If they want to destroy this stuff, cool, man, like they don't care, you know what I mean? So it's things like that. So you got to look at it like this. Like Wizard, they'll come out, they'll make the show online, they'll do their thing. They're not going to care. What you're probably going to see out of this, especially when it comes to the idea of creating that type of council, is if it picks up steam, which people in the comments section were kind of all for it. What that's going to do is that's going to then, when it comes to these kind of tournaments, maybe not right away getting into like the big tournament type stuff that is operated by Wizards of the Coast, but at least on a small scale, of them coming in and trying to push into these smaller tourneys or these smaller events and then work their way up to getting accepted in. And the thing with that is you would have to explain to them that it's not a good idea. Now, tweets calling them all cucks or them all idiots and being trollish, you're not going to win any favors. You win, you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar in these particular situations. And it's going to be a hard uphill battle because, again, the victimization narrative has been pushed so far and so long that the general idea there is that Magic the Gathering as a whole is just a toxic community for women. Again, as I said at the beginning of this video, this long video, that I talked to my sister who actively played in Magic events in Portland and asked her if that was a thing. And she, being a newbie player, outside of being asked out in front of her boyfriend, said it was a fun, chill experience. So I would argue that that is probably the case for about 99% of every Magic group out there. You are going to have your edgelords and your shitlords online, and I just hate to say it to you, that's part of the game. You know what? If they're giving you crap on Twitter, block them, mute them, use the tools at your disposal, and move on. You're not going to get them to change. You're just not. Unless you actually ask them what they don't like and engage with them, and that's entirely up to you. But in the meantime, I just want to kind of say before I finish this video out, there are probably a couple things in here I might have gotten wrong. All right. This is a big situation to kind of dive into. There's a lot there. A lot's gone on, back and forth animosity with some people and other people. I'm just giving my, third party, haven't played the game in 20 years approach to it. So if there's anything I missed or you think I should know more of, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know. I do feel that Unsleeved Media or the Quartering, whatever he goes by now, whatever he wants to go by, Jeremy, is just trying to be a bit of an edgelord troll. He pushed buttons. He apparently succeeded in that. And at this point, those of you that are trying to oust him out of this stuff, you're probably not going to do anything else other than give him more power with a certain subsect of people, which will then only push his popularity further as he then continues to rally against you, drawing more people to his side and further causing a larger divide of players, especially when it comes to the online space. And the best way to kind of combat this is to not look at everyone who disagrees with you as a villain, but just a person who you haven't had a conversation with to better understand their points. And that isn't normalizing anything. It's just having understanding, having knowledge, is then having power, and then being able to make, solid decisions with that. Hey guys, that wraps up this video. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do so below. I love to read your guys' input. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. If you want to support the channel, there's the Amazon affiliate store, there's PayPal, there's Patreon, there's Bitcoin. And if you're bored and you want something else to watch, check out 3 Buck Theater up here. My name is Matt Jarbo. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a wonderful day. Peace out.